Hello and welcome to
Hello.
Brits American Tour. You're with me, BP1 and BP2, sister channel to Britpops React. Today we're reacting to all things American, and that is 6 things America is surprisingly behind Britain on, which normally we're, the bit of a trendsetter, aren't they, Americans?
Yeah,
and we sort of
we're
follow
behind.
catching
up.
But these are things that apparently we're ahead. We're trend-setting on, but America seem surprisingly behind. But that is in the words of Lost in the Pond. Lawrence.
Oh yeah,
we've done
Lawrence up here.
Britpops React many times. I think we've done one on this channel already. So very good at, lives in America now as ex-British. I was going to say person. Pat, yeah.
Personage.
Person of interest.
Well, I mean, it's great because we sort of get the Brits' eye view of somebody in the mix of it, So we're getting it sort of direct from the horse's mouth. He knows what he's talking about. Although he's been there a long time now, so
yeah, he's got his US citizenship. So
yeah. So all right, 6 things America is surprisingly behind Brits on. Healthcare,
maybe.
Hello there. I'm still celebrating the fact that 17 years ago this month I moved to the United States, and in my previous video I told you about some of the things that America does better than Britain. And in the comments some of you were like, yeah, but what about some of the things that America is behind Britain on? Prompting us to write, America behind the rest of the world on certain things? Never! Has a sentence been so true? Even though it's done phenomenal things like put actual humans on the moon or invented Star Wars. You also gave us YouTubes that I could be one of its many sensations. And if you're not yet subscribed to this channel, do that now. But from experience, I can tell you, you are behind Britain on many things. When my feet touched down on American soil for the first time as an American resident, they felt restricted. And I know what you're thinking, ooh, Lawrence, did you just get confused by American shoe sizes? Well, yes, but I don't mean that kind of restriction. I mean restriction as to where my feet could go. What do you mean by that, Lawrence? Well, when I first moved here, I lived in a city called Anderson in Indiana. And there were many areas of Anderson, specifically along Scatterfield Road, that didn't have sidewalks. I'd never seen this before. Growing up in Britain, if like me, you wanted to go to your local shop or pub or masseuse, not that kind of masseuse, I would always have the option to walk. It's not advisable in my hometown of Grimsby, but you can. When I lived in Anderson, the only way that I could get to the nearest CVS is if I drove a car and I didn't have a license, so I just sent my mother-in-law to get it. And this is American urban walkability in a nutshell. Such as America's reliance on motor vehicles, pedestrian access often gives way to a parking lot, a 6-lane highway, and a drive-through pharmacy. Now, all of my British viewers are currently huddled together in somebody's living room, and they're saying something like, Lawrence, why didn't you just catch the bus? Like I had the option.
Okay.
Because public transport in this country is way behind Britain, and what you have to understand about that sentence is that Britain's is way behind everyone else. So it doesn't look that good for you there, America. I will say that both walkability and public transit became more reliable after I moved here to Chicago, which admittedly is a major city. Once you get out of the major cities, Anderson, maybe even Indianapolis, I mean, some people say that's not a major city, but the buses there are wild. Sometimes I would wait an hour for a bus to arrive that was supposed to take half an hour, which is still quite a long time. Admittedly, I haven't lived in Indianapolis for 8 years, so it might be different now. Let me know in the comments, indie people. And I don't think I've ever mentioned this, but I've been in precisely 2 bus crashes in my life. They both happened in Indianapolis. I think the city was sending me a message. But it's not just the buses, it's also the trains. I mean, they're a bit like my wife's cousin Chad. They're perfectly nice, but they go on forever. They're so slow, I'd sooner walk, but as we've seen in the previous entry, I can't even do that, so sometimes I am forced to take Amtrak. Oh, and don't get me started on their long-distance commuter buses, like Greyhound. Greyhound are supposed to be quick. The only thing that Greyhound buses have got in common with an actual Greyhound is that they sometimes smell of urine. But back before I became an international superstar, I used to travel on some of these buses because it's all I could afford. And there was one time when I got on one of those buses and there was only 1 seat remaining, but the seat had been taken from me by a backpack belonging to a man who sat in the seat next to it. And so I said, excuse me, can I sit? And he said, yes, on the floor. So I sat on the floor because he's a bloody big man. But it's not just America that gets behind. Even I forget to do one of the most basic human tasks of all, grocery shopping. That's where Hungry Root has completely...
Okay, so the first one on his list was... sidewalks or pavements, as we call them.
Pavements, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I would just assume. I would just assume there were pavements everywhere. But maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I mean, he was talking rural there. I mean, if you go to a small village, even that, you know.
Yeah, it does. It tends to have pavements. Tends to have pavements. When it's built.
Tends to have pavements. And then, obviously, going on to public transport, hit and miss, isn't it? I mean, yeah, we are. I mean, you know, he's saying that we're ahead of America, but we're miles behind the rest of Europe in pricing, reliability, things like that, cleanliness. Obviously, everybody knows us for the London Underground, but good luck with that one.
Exactly.
Buses. I mean, round here, buses do run locally. They run out to sort of local villages and that, so that, you know, they are reliable. They are on time generally, and they do go out to places that, you know, you'd think they wouldn't even bother with going to, so that's a plus.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Let's crack on. Let's see what his second one is.
And it's probably just as well that I didn't put up a fight, because there's this thing called the US healthcare system. Firstly, I want to talk about the ambulance rides. I'll give you this. Just like a Chicago taxi driver, they do get you from A to B pretty quickly. But here's how they're different from taxi rides. The fare is often in the thousands of dollars. And the only time that I've ever paid that much for a taxi is when I got stuck in Preston. So if you're in an emergency and you need to get operated on quickly by hospital staff, you might end up paying a month's rent for the privilege. Mercifully, you don't get billed until afterwards, so don't feel like you need to scramble for your wallet while you're being defibrillated. In Britain, you don't get charged for that, or indeed for most health services, because it's covered under the NHS, which makes me regret not taking more ambulance rides when I had the chance. And I've heard some Americans argue that nothing's free. The National Health Service is publicly funded, and this is true. A percentage of our earnings is put to the National Health Service, and then we all benefit from that service. The thing is that in this country, most of us pay for an insurance plan every month, which only covers some of the costs of the healthcare that you get, but not all of them. So you're still paying on top of paying for health insurance. And the healthcare quality, in my experience, is no better than that I received in the UK. And you might say, oh, Lawrence, but what about wait times in the UK? Well, yeah, through the NHS, it's true that for certain things, specifically those things that aren't life-threatening, there are quite long wait times. I have an example of this. In 1997, I got 2 horrific ingrowing toenails at the same time, and I hope you're eating lunch. And this was not something that I could afford to wait on, because it was causing me immense pain. So we went to a private British hospital, and to this day I don't know how much it cost because my dad paid for it. But the point is, the private option that Americans know and love is available to us in Britain as well. But it's usually seen as an alternative if you can't get seen to on the NHS. And I feel like over the years that I've lived here, I've seen the media portray the healthcare that we get in Britain as some sort of communist plot to destroy the world. And I would say this, if that, a publicly funded healthcare system, is your definition of communism, we might as well call Rhodes communist.
I must admit, I am glad of our NHS.
Speaking of roads, though, I want to talk about something that I don't think gets talked about all that much, and that is America's motorcycle helmet laws. When I was a kid, all I ever wanted to be when I grew up was the Terminator. And not because of his programmed ability to terminate, but because of how f***ing cool he looked on a motorcycle. I think it's impossible to look cool on a motorcycle if you're wearing a motorcycle helmet. If you put one of these on Arnie, T1000's just going to laugh at him. That said, a major Cochrane study found that wearing a helmet reduces a rider's risk of death by about 42% and the risk of serious head injury by around 69%. I know somebody in my wife's family who was in a motorcycle accident. The day it happened, we were all obviously very concerned that he wasn't going to make it. I mean, the prognosis was not good. Thankfully, he did come through it, and he's had to do a lot of rehabilitation in that time. But around about the time of the incident, I remember becoming curious about America's motorcycle helmet laws. Unlike with seatbelts, people were either doing it or not doing it. And this is shocking to me because in Britain, you can't ride a motorcycle if you're not wearing a helmet. So I looked into America's law around motorcycle helmets, and I discovered it wasn't a law, it was a series of laws governed by the states. In the United States, policy is all over the map when it comes to helmet laws. Currently, only 17 states require all riders and passengers to wear helmets, regardless of age or experience. Many other states only have partial laws, requiring helmets for just younger riders, new riders, or those without certain insurance coverage. And 3 states, Illinois, Iowa, and New Hampshire, have no helmet requirement whatsoever. In 2023, 26.2% of all fatal road accidents in states with no helmet laws involved a motorcycle. This is compared with 18.8% in states with partial helmet laws and 13.5% in states with universal helmet laws. So in 2025, I think I'd prefer to be uncool than terminated.
Yeah. That is rough. I didn't realise that. I just thought it was a given.
So, as we've established, I was a child once, but I don't have kids of my own. I have dogs, who are a lot like children, just for their whole life. But I do have friends who have kids on either side of the pond. But one of the major differences is the national mandate around paid parental leave. In Britain, mothers can take up to 52 weeks of maternity leave. Fathers, on the other hand, are eligible for 1 or 2 weeks of paid paternity leave, which nonetheless is among the worst offerings in Europe. So Britain is behind the rest of the world on paid parental leave. America isn't even on the map. And that's because there is no federal law mandating paid parental leave for American private sector employees. The closest thing we have is FMLA, which provides eligible workers 12 weeks of unpaid leave. So I think that British people, or anybody who moves to the United States, who plans on having children down the line, might want to know that.
Interesting.
Okay.
I got the impression very early on that Americans are just expected to work all the time. And I'm not just saying this because of the parental leave thing. I'm also saying it because American companies don't have to give their employees paid vacation time. I should add that this is distinct from federal holidays, which are nationally mandated, but may or may not result in a day off from work. Rather, I'm talking about a federally enshrined number of days allowing workers the occasional 2-week vacation in Aruba. I mean, as someone who benefited from this in Britain, where you get something like 28 days leave, I have to say that the rewards of it are so much greater than not having it. And I don't just mean for my personal well-being. I think it's good for worker morale. If you're not worked to death, I think you can do a more productive job throughout the year. Now, thankfully, I was lucky. I managed to work for a number of companies who did offer me vacation time, but it was time that I had to accrue in something called PTO, which is paid time off. You accrue the hours by working a set number of hours beforehand, and your reward for that is some time off, rather than that being mandated at the government level. And I can tell you that once again, virtually all of the rest of the world guarantees paid time off for all full-time employees. And I think whenever I speak to Americans about this, they're not even aware that that's happening in the rest of the world, which I think makes it easier for the powers that be to not do anything about it, for the status quo to remain, and for the rights of workers to be trampled on without those workers realizing they're being trampled on. Because as an old friend of mine once said, I need a vacation. And because this video probably felt like a right downer for Americans, here are 7 things that Americans do better than British people. You'll watch that video next. And in the meantime...
He's put the wrong one up. All right, there you go. Interesting again. So, yeah, I didn't realise on the sidewalk stuff. I just assumed that they were everywhere. House care, you called that one. So I think that was about right. The road and the helmets, I'm surprised that it's not in all... locations. I mean, maybe some of the rural ones I could understand, maybe, but not in 2025. We've got too much data to say why it's important to wear it, and it should be mandate. Holidays, I understood it. I didn't realise it was not paid. I thought they had less holidays to take, but not the fact that they don't have to pay them. It's not a mandate that I hear. You know, every company gives a minimum of like 22
company,
or something.
I guess, depends what company you're working for. Obviously, we know we got colleagues working in the States. And it's not only that, though. It's the ones that do get holiday, then they don't even take them, though, do they? You know,
I know,
they tend to sort of work through and don't take their holidays or accrue them up and then still don't take them. I mean, obviously the benefits are if you know that you got 2 weeks summer holiday or whatever, and you go away, just forget work for 2 weeks, come back refreshed, ready to rock on, isn't it? So
yeah, definitely
there is a plus in that, and obviously the paternity leave. As you said, you called it. I mean, it is being extended over here, possibly, like you say, we haven't done too much in the delivery of that child, so we don't need any recovery time.
No, we don't need recovery time as men. Very true.
You know, probably sort of bonding with the younger one, but at that age, you know, they're too young anyway, isn't it? So not quite sure.
It's more to just help isn't
out,
it? Help out, because it's a
tough home, help out.
It's a tough thing to do when you're first, when you've got a first little newborn. It's a lot going on. Not much sleep.
Once you got 7 or 8, you've probably got it down to a T, you know.
Yeah.
All right, there you go.
Brilliant.
Well played, Lawrence. Again, 17 years he's been there, mate. So fair play to him.
Happy days. All right.
Do you agree with any of those?
Yeah.
Any others that you think should be on the list that he missed out or disagree completely with? In the comments, please.
Yeah, definitely. All right, there you go. That's 6 things America is surprisingly behind us Brits on. There you go. Surprising. We will be back shortly with another video, so make sure you stay tuned to the channel, hit the subscribe button, and do hit the like button. Helps us out. All right.
Thank you very much.
It's goodbye
like
from
and
me.
Subscribe, as they say.
Down over there. Bye.
Bye.